Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Today, I am joined by a legend, a man that has shaped my life in a very dramatic way, the creator of Friday the 13th, Victor Miller. Victor, how you doing today, man?
I have never been better. I mean, you know, it's a day at a time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All I got is today.
Yeah, it's like we were just talking. We've been in shelter in place for so long, it's starting to lose track of the days.
Well, yes, we've my wife started numbering the days on the calendar on the refrigerator, and I guess it's 191 today. I forget exactly, but this is weird. I mean, I was born at the beginning of World War II. Then I went through let's see, and my father was in the Navy, so we didn't see much of him. Then there was Korea and polio, and then we had Vietnam, and we had all these other things, and then we got COVID-19. It just gets worse.
Right. First and foremost, thank you to your father for him serving. I know that probably affected your mother as well. Once he's out there on the battlefield, so is the whole family. You guys are all out there with him. So thank you guys. That's something I don't take lightly at all. Yeah. Those men and women that are over there serving or have served are way more braver than I. So your dad was a fine gentleman. Thank you so much for what he did. Yeah. I do want to stroke you here a little bit because not only are you the creator of one of the best horror franchises of all time in Friday the 13th, you are also a multiple Emmy winner. The Daytime Emmy Awards for All My Children, 1985, 1988, and 1998, as well as the Writer Guilds of America Award in 98, 2000, 01, and 03 for All My Children. So multiple awards for you, sir. Great job to you as well.
Thank you. I guess we should have taped this in front of my mantelpiece downstairs, where all of those awards are just sitting there gathering dust.
Oh man, it's incredible to me. I'm talking to a legend right now. Like, oh, I don't know. This is like the kid that gets to meet Rocky, man. Like this is huge for me.
Let me see if I can give you another perspective on that. When my mother was at the in the old age home on her last legs, this is kind of where Mrs. Voorhees comes from. She would introduce me to the other elderly ladies as, "This is my son, the writer, but he only wrote soap opera." So now you know why the killer was a mother.
There you go. But to go from soap opera to Friday the 13th, that's
well, I went from Friday the 13th to soap opera. It was a lot more fun that way.
Oh, that's so incredible, man. It's so incredible to hear that. And all the steps that you've taken in your life, you know, reading about you and all the great things that you've done. You talked about your father being a veteran. I believe that we're here to talk about your first horror movie. But before we get into that, on behalf of everybody out here in the horror community that's watching, we want to say thank you, sir, on giving us something that is, like I said, so influential to all of us. You talk to any horror fan, you talk to anybody, everybody knows the Curse of Friday the 13th. I mean, everybody knows Jason Voorhees, and that's because of you that we get to talk about that. So this to me is the closest I've been in my entire life to talking to the Lord. So I want to say, sir, thank you and taking the time out to come here and let me talk to you a little bit. This is so incredible. So before we got started, I wanted to say that my good buddy, Michael Colomb, he's the one that hooked me up with you. He's such a great guy. And I'm just so grateful to you both that I get to have this opportunity. So
Michael is
before we go on, oh, he is such an amazing man, such a great guy, one of my best friends, talk to him every day. So I wanted to make sure I threw his name out there because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be doing this. So thank you so much for coming on here with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure.
We are here to talk about your first horror movie. And the first horror movie that you watched was?
7 Keys to Baldpate. I was, I think, 6 years old. I was in the first grade at Clay County High School in Green Cove Springs, Florida. We were on the Navy base. My father was the exec there, and for the year after WW2, and they had a movie theater that I could get into for about 5 cents or something, and I could walk. I was 6 years old. Because it was a Navy base, I could walk from our house and the housing, and then over to the main base and to the movie theater. And I went in, and I think I paid like 5 cents or something, and I went rather regularly, and Seven Keys to Baldpate had actually been a Broadway comedy smash because it was kind of a funny horror movie play or whatever. And so there I was eating my popcorn or whatever. And there was just, I can't tell you all the scenes because I don't remember them all that well, but there was, and I may even have it confused with yet another movie in there because I was a regular movie goer, but if I remember correctly, and it's probably not correct, at some point it was alleged that in this hat box was a human head. And they threw it down the middle of the corridor in a bus. And I just lost it. I went rigid. I turned around. I got up out of my seat and I ran the hell out of there, and all the way home. And so that was my reaction. And then from then on, I would see, Abbott and Costello and Frankenstein and Dracula and all those things. And I got scared in every one of them. I think, if I were a psychiatrist, I would say that being born at the beginning of World War II and having a father first in the Atlantic and then in the Pacific, and my older sister and older brother would tease me all the time that the Japanese were going to come and bomb us and stuff like that. So I had been prepared, pre-made, whatever for horror.
Yeah.
Because it was just everybody was talking about, whose father didn't come home, whose father did come home, who had a Purple Heart, who didn't have a Purple Heart, one of my father's friends had his hand blown off because he was picking up a souvenir, which had been booby-trapped. So this was the milieu into which I was born in the first 8 years of my life. And so I come by horror rather naturally.
Sure. Well, like you say, when you have to go through that real life horror, there's nothing scarier than is my dad coming home?
Yeah.
Or my friend's father's coming home? I can't imagine what you guys went through living on a base and always constantly wondering that. Again, my heart's out to you because the brave men and women that serve this country make this country the amazing country that it is. And we have the freedoms that we have today because of the brave men and women that have always fought for us.
But I also had a crazy mother too. So that was not necessarily war related, though it was her husband who was out there floating around in a destroyer escort in the middle of the Atlantic. So,
right.
This was no time to be a child. And so for the rest of my life, well, not the rest of my life, but until I went away to boarding school at age 13, oh God, I looked under my bed every night to make sure there was nobody there. And that's how Kevin Bacon got the arrow through his sternum, which is a physical impossibility. And I'd have my mother look in the closet to make sure there are no monsters in there. And we had a dog, Duffy, and Duffy slept on my bed to protect me. So I was just screwed up from the get-go.
Well, to be honest with you, after reading Seven Keys to Baldpate, because I was reading on it because I had never seen it, and I at least want to be a little educated when I talk to people about what they've watched. You could see some similarities about, you got these people that are coming into this house, and he thinks that it's a joke, that they're just there to try to scare him out so he can't win the reward money, because the main guy made a bet that he could stay in the house all night, and he thinks that everybody's just out there but he ends up in the house and you find out these people are killers. So,
well, you now remember more about the play than I did. So.
Well, it has the best ending because he has to stay in there and write a book, and at the end, the mistress comes in with him, and he sits down to write, and he just writes the end, and that's how it. And it's such a phenomenal ending. It's not a little kid jumping out of a lake and grabbing somebody, but it's still a very good ending.
And I think as a Broadway play, it was supposed to be funny horror and that kind of thing. But at age 6, I was not ready for funny horror.
Right. At age 6, horror is horror.
So that was my beginning, and then because of the kind of environment of my household, the idea of horror. I mean, I have said in more than one interview, I wish I had written Raising Arizona. I wanted to be a Coen brother. Um, that that would have been made me much happier, because I wanted to write comedy, and but evidently my higher power had other plans for me, and it's better than continuing to teach teachers how to do theater games in the classroom. So, which is what I was doing at the time. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, you have worked on a couple comedies, if I remember correctly, like Jury Duty. You had worked on
That, yes, but my jury duty was not the jury duty that was shot. Mine was before that, and it was Alan Ladd Productions, and so they bought the screenplay and never made it. So my jury duty, I think my jury duty is better than the one that was made. And and I wrote a couple of comedies with the late Peter Fonda, who had been a childhood friend of mine, and they never got picked up or made either. But so I am doomed, I think, unless I suddenly somebody wants to buy those films. I'm going to be Victor Miller of Jason's father, So
there's much worse things you could be, sir.
oh yes, no, I do not downplay the importance. It's just you have to, evidently, if you're praying for something, you got to be much more specific. I wanted to earn a living as a writer. I forgot to specify I would prefer comedy, please, because my way of dealing with my own inner fears and turmoils has to do with comedy, because that to me is the best way to do it. And so it is just the irony of all ironies that I get up as Jason's dad. But it was fascinating in one of let's see, over I'm 80 now, and I've been to 3 different shrinks over all of those years. But one of them said, "I can't believe you don't know why you made the villain a woman." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, it's your mother." And I said, "Well, you're right. If I had been Jason and I had not drowned, or I had drowned and come back up to see Mom, she would have said, 'I told you not to go swimming on a full stomach,' rather than, 'Oh, who hurt you, dear?'" So,
right.
In other words, in some unconscious way, I turned the world that I had lived in upside down, and I had a mother who was so mad at other people, not her son, that she went around killing them for being mean to her kid, which was the exact opposite of the way I was raised. So,
That's funny.
There are no accidents, you know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It all comes out.
So I want to ask you. You talked about how Seven Keys to Baldpate is the first horror movie you watched. I just got to know, what is your all-time your favorite horror movie?
Oh, Tony Perkins, and now you see I'm 80. My mind. Come on, Tony Perkins is the killer.
Psycho.
Psycho. Thank you. I've got too many things in my head. They all have to get pushed out one at a one. Yeah, but Psycho was the first real horror movie, because it wasn't my habit to go out to horror movies, but because it was Tony Perkins and whatnot, I was staying with some friends in New York, and they said, "Let's go see Psycho," and I did, and that was as perfect a horror movie as you could ever want to make. And of course, it got redone in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Psycho is so influential that they're still doing stuff about Psycho today. I mean, the score, you hear that all the time.
Right.
The twist at the end is one of the first twists that all of us can remember. It's the mom. Oh, wait, no, it's not the mom. It's him.
Yeah.
And even the ending, when he's still in the mom perspective and he's sitting there thinking, and the flies landing, I wouldn't even hurt a fly.
Yes, oh, that was genius, and also let's see, um, the chair jumper at the end, which is I guess the official title for all these kinds of things, also brought Sean to tell me. He said we need a chair jumper at the end, and I said, "You mean Jason coming out of the water or something?" He said, "Yeah," and so that was that, and oh, I'm thinking of all kinds of movies. Oh Lord, the girl who's dropped blood on and
Oh, Carrie.
Harry. Thank you. I don't. I seem to forget things that start with capital letters. Those things have gone out of my head at this age. Um, but yeah, I mean, the hand coming out of the grave. So it's kind of a given that if you don't have a chair jumper, you don't have a horror movie. So
Sure.
that's the deal.
And it's funny because you mentioned it, all the big ones, you always have that right at the end. One
Right.
more time. Let's
Yeah.
do it one more time. You
And
know, and it's
what was great when I went to see Friday the 13th with an actual audience, it was fascinating to be sitting there and knowing what was coming. And then that like a third of the audience had already, this was in Connecticut and it was cold outside, and a third of the audience had already put on their coats and was heading out the exit, when suddenly the entire theater went batshit, and they all turned around and said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa," because they weren't ready for Jason to pop out.
right. And on that in the vein of what you're saying, nowadays we kind of expect that. We
Yeah.
know, even with with what Marvel's been doing, we have people that sit all the way through the credits because there might be a post-credit scene.
Right.
But back then, you think, oh, it's all been wrapped up in this happy
Yeah.
little package. Mom's been decapitated. It's over. We can get going. Everybody's safe now.
Yep.
But then to have that what Jason and just the look on how he looks, so monstrous,
Yeah.
and it's just so amazing to have that
Well,
call right there.
you got Harry Manfredini's music, which was
Mm-hmm.
symphonic, uh, and it said to everybody, the movie's over, everything's fine, don't worry about it. Harry is a genius. There's no two ways about that. I think he's probably one of the best writers for movies that I can think of, and that was just so the counterpoint was genius.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing because, like you said, you got this. Because when you watch that now, it's something that I watch Friday the 13th every year. I at least got to go back and revisit these movies every year. And part one, what a lot of people fail to remember, everybody remembers part one is Jason's mom,
Right.
and Scream really made that, drove that point home. But what a lot of people don't realize is how brilliant part one is. When you actually sit down and watch that film, it's not something you expect to happen. You don't expect Mrs. Voorhees. And a lot of the cinematography in this movie, a lot of it goes back to Kevin Bacon's death, which is absolutely brilliant and awesome. But at the same time, this has one of the best final girls ever. I love her in this movie. She's so much fun. And just to see that ending, how unexpected that is the first time you see it is just pure genius. And like you said, with that music, you have that almost euphoric feeling of,
Yeah.
I've made it. It's
Everything's
done.
okay. Everything's okay. It's like your parents told you. Don't worry, dear. There's no one in the closet. It's
Yep.
going to be fine. And I'll just turn out the light now and I'll close the door. No, please leave a little open. No, no, I'm going to close the door. It's okay now. And then boom, out of the closet comes whatever you want.
Right. Comes the monster. So,
Yeah.
man, it's so incredible to talk to you about this and learning all these things
Uh,
about how much. And I'm sure going back and looking at it at that time, I don't think it would have been possible for you to know how big this was going to possibly get. I'm sure you had a feeling, but to know that you would be in everybody's living room at some point in their life.
Not true. When I finished it, I mean, I didn't get paid much for the movie, and uh, on the success of Friday the 13th, Columbia Pictures asked me to come out and talk to them, and they gave me a contract for probably 10 times what I made on Friday the 13th, and I wrote a screenplay for them, and they never made it. It's in what we call turnaround, and that's the problem with studios, is the studios like to make movies, but they don't seem to like to release them. Or they buy the movies and don't release them. So that one's still sitting around, I guess, in a shelf somewhere in the Columbia Pictures vault. And the funny thing was that I wrote it because I had always thought that I would like to do a horror film in a hospital, because I was always terrified of hospitals. I spent far too much time from falling off of things in hospitals. And so I skimmed out the treatment for it and whatnot, sent it off to the guy at Columbia Pictures who was handling me. And he got back to me and he said, we love this story. It's a horror film in a hospital. But the Frank Price, who I guess was the head of Columbia Pictures at that point, took a look at it and he said, no, movies in hospitals never make money. Well, that was not true, actually, because hospital made a lot of money. But anyway, they said, can you put it somewhere else? All I had when I went in to pitch this picture was horror film in a hospital. So they said, well, can you find a different place for it? And I said, okay, how about a girls' college? And they said, great. So I wrote the whole screenplay as a horror film in a women's college with a women's dorm. And so we had a lot of naked girls or half naked girls running around. And
Sure.
and they paid me my last check and then never made the movie. So to say that life is a mystery and a surprise party would be an understatement of the year.
Right. And I gotta bring this up too. I know it's way off topic, but you have some of the coolest tattoos I have ever seen in my entire life, man.
Well, you catch tattoos from your children. I thought you knew that. I have an older son, Ian, who is in a number of rock bands and has been all his life. And so he was the first one, I think, to get the tattoos. And then my other son, Josh, started getting some tattoos. And so I went out and visited them and started. And your first tattoo is always an embarrassment. This is just awful, this one. This is my first tattoo. Wait a minute, I get that fish at the top.
Yeah.
But anyway, we all have, it's like our first girlfriend. You'd rather forget her.
They never look the way you remember them looking.
Right. So then I went and hooked up with my son, the bass player, who was also earning money repairing autoclaves, which have gone out of use these days. You know, the sterilizing silver things that the top came up, and then you'd put all the hypodermic needles and everything back in to sterilize them. Well, now they just throw these things away. So
sure.
But so he introduced me to all the best tattoo guys in San Francisco. So, and and I've got a tattoo from my grandson, who is a graphic artist, studying, which is, I can never figure out how to make this thing work. No, that's the wrong side. All right. Where's my light? Get some light on this thing. All right. This is a crawfish smoking a cigar, wearing a straw hat. And I got
that is awesome.
Moving. Oh, well, anyway, I can't figure out. It's backwards and frontwards. But because I was born in New Orleans and I smoke a cigar every afternoon, whether I need to or not. But I had mine early, so I wouldn't have to get nervous during this interview.
I appreciate that. And I want to say thank you again. We didn't get to talk much about Seven Keys to Baldpate, but then again, I fangirled for most of the time. So I always ask this at the end. Seven Keys to Baldpate, from what you can remember, we judge everything on a skull count, 0 being the worst, being the best. You rank that movie?
Well, I didn't see all of it. I ran out screaming. So it's I think I tried to see it once on television when I was 20s or 30s or something, but I never really got to see the whole thing again. I guess I should do what you did. I should read the screenplay and see just what's going on in it. But it did me in, and those are the things. But oh, worse than that. Let me tell you the other horror. The worst horror in all of Green Cove Springs wasn't 7 Keys to Baldpate. It was my first day at Clay County High School, first grade. So picture to yourself a classroom that looks like it was ripped right out of Our Gang comedies. All right.
Okay.
The teacher's desk was up on a platform, raised desk, you know, and we were all in these little things. And before that, we lived in New Orleans, and so I'd gone to a nice private kindergarten where everybody was nice and patted you on the head, and we played Froggy Went a Courtin' and all that stuff. And here I am in Clay County High School, first grade, and I walk into the classroom, and it's like, it's a nightmare. It is probably 25, 30 desks, but it seemed like 100. And I was, I guess, late to get there, or just, it hadn't quite started yet. And all the children were shrieking with this hysterical laughter that was really evil. It wasn't good laughter. It wasn't, oh, ho, 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 Nito, Nito. They were going, like a lot of little wicked witches. And they were laughing and screaming and pointing at a girl standing on top of the teacher's raised platform, but not on the desk, obviously. And she had a piece of chewing gum stuck on her nose. And that was the punishment. It's the first day of school. The teacher sees this girl coming in chewing gum, pulls her out, evidently, and makes her stick the gum on the end of her nose and stand there while we all shrieked in hilarious relief that it wasn't us.
Wow.
At that girl. That was worse than 7 Keys to Baldpate, let me tell you. I had nightmares for weeks. Finally, about 3 months later, I was having so many nightmares, my wife homeschooled me until the last couple of weeks of school year. But this, you know, oh, and the other, sorry, you've got me
No,
going.
this is incredible.
The other thing was the second or third day, it was time that, because it was a city ordinance or whatever, all the children had to have typhoid shots or whatever they were. So the teacher came in and said, we're all going to have shots today. And I went, oh, fuck. not this too. And I raised my hand and said, I'm on the Navy base and I've had all my shots. And she said, all right, well, you can go to the little boys' room or the boys' room outside. So I walked out of the classroom with one other kid who already had his shots. And down the hallway came this 75-year-old woman with white hair and a white nurse's uniform and a push trolley on which were like 60 different hypodermic needles, all clattering because they're all full of anti-typhoid whatever, and jiggling and just coming like something out of the worst movie you've ever seen. And I just went into the little boys' room and I just, oh my God, I can't, if this gets any worse, I'm out. So that's it. I mean, that whole life in Green Cove Springs is pretty horrible. So.
Yeah, but it's crazy how those things influence you.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, you start thinking about those shots coming and you're like, hey, can I just put some gum on my nose and stand over there instead?
Yeah, you want the shot or the gum? Which you like? We can laugh at you either way. Nice.
Well, don't go anywhere real quick, sir. I got a couple more questions for you.
Go right
Again,
ahead.
on behalf of everybody, thank you so much. Everybody else, round of applause for this, man. Thank you so much. Remember, guys, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.